Well, I'm frustrated from the standpoint of I continue to tell the people what this pumping system can do. It's this climate change, folks. It's coming every week. It's coming across the country. These constant weather patterns, they're extreme. So we all need to be aware that we're living in, there's a new normal. That we're really kind of going to have to get to the point where we have to expect and understand.
Good evening, I'm Juliana Mazza. Welcome to the WDSU Hot Seat. You just heard from Sewerage and Water Board officials about Saturday night's flooding issues across New Orleans. I'm joined now by New Orleans City Council member Jason Williams to talk about what the city is trying to do to address concerns and the pumping system. Jason, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So the big concern residents have is when we see all the flooding that happened from a rainstorm, what can we do when we're seeing potential tropical storms or hurricanes?
Well, we can't control how much rain falls. You know, that's Mother Nature. We can't stop that. We can't control it. But what we can do is control our response to it and our reaction to it. And number one, there's some serious questions that have to be answered. Did the pumping stations work appropriately? Were they activated on time? Was each pump working? Those are a lot of questions I'm hearing when I'm out in the community, and those are questions I plan on getting answers to very, very shortly. We have seen bad weather events. This was not the worst weather event we've ever had. I was with Naaman Stewart, president of the Zulu Social Aid and Pleasure Club. He described water coming down like this just a little while ago, and they did not get 2 feet of flood water inside of the Zulu Club. Now that's what happened this weekend, and there are rocks throw from the pumping station. Even closer to the pumping station is a Broad Theater. And this is the second week in a row that just heavy rainfall has caused flooding inside of the establishment, and that's deeply problematic.
Well, the Sewerage and Water Board, right, saying that the system can only handle 1 inch of rain in the first hour, ½ an inch every hour after that. So saying this is essentially what the system is built for, and there was no fault, saying everything was working. You know, when you take a look at the streets, is that something that you buy into?
Well, I'm gonna take Ronald Reagan's word, trust but verify, sure, all right? I'm asking some questions because something doesn't make sense. Where the Broad Theater is located was the former law office of a mentor of mine, Ernest Caulfield. And that place only flooded once before, and that was during Hurricane Katrina. So something is very different from how it was before. We talk to people in the neighborhoods. They remember hard rain falling for continuous amounts of time and not getting water inside of their homes. That's what was happening in the Treme. You know, driving through Lakeview today, driving through the Treme today, driving through the Broad Street area today, this was not the typical reaction to water falling for the amount of time that it fell. So we have to answer some questions about our catch basins. I want to know from the administration what the records are showing. How many catch basins have they cleaned prior to the storm season? How many were checked off the list? Whether or not the canals have been pumped well enough so that they had capacity to take on more water. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, because just saying to the public that climate change is real and this is a new normal, that is an unacceptable answer to people who are underwater and wet. It just doesn't make sense.
And let's talk about that. You know, Cedric Grant saying that this was an effect of climate change, and I'm sure climate change affects all states, all areas. So when you hear, you know, that claim climate change is contributing to what we saw this weekend, is that something that you think is a fair excuse or a fair statement to make for the flooding that we saw?
I think it's callous and insensitive to start off with, but it does not answer. It cannot be the new normal. We cannot, if this is what a hard storm does, then we can't handle a hurricane. So we can't accept this as the new normal. If in fact our pumps were pumping to capacity, then maybe we need to address what we think capacity is, and maybe we need to spend more of the city's budget on increasing our pumping stations if this is what capacity delivers to our citizens.
I know Cedric wasn't able to be here with us tonight on the short notice. We thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
But I know, you know, when we're looking ahead, if we did want to try and improve this infrastructure, if we determined that we need a better pumping system, where does that money come from? Is that something the city can even look at to try and afford right now?
Well, I can tell you that would be very costly. The measures that have been put in place already cost millions of dollars. But before we talk about adding more money to the pumping station, I want to ask very specific questions about what was going on in each of our pumping stations this weekend, because we need to know exactly what was going on. I mean, there's a bit of a human element to it. A human being has to decide when to flip those pumping stations on. So I want to make sure that they were flipped on at the right time, which is when that water started to fall, based upon how much water we had. I was talking to one neighbor who described right in the area, maybe 2 blocks off of Broad Street, that it looked like a placid lake. Water was not moving up until 10 o'clock. Then at 10 o'clock, it began to drain very, very quickly, so much that there was a current. There's an explanation for that. Now, just because I'm an elected official doesn't mean I know I have all the answers. So I'm reaching out to experts so that we can find those answers for the citizens.
And you know, one area that seemed to do really well was over in Jefferson Parish. You know, Scott Walker was over there yesterday for us, and they had pumping stations and they were working as they said they were here. But we're seeing they turned a playground into what became a catch area for all of this water and had a plan in place. Do we have plans like that set up in this area?
We have plans in place. But I can tell you, based on what I saw over the weekend, those plans didn't work. Look at downtown. Look at the French Quarter. Areas that typically have not flooded had at least 2 feet of water. So there is something very different in our infrastructure that has created a new problem. One of the questions I think President Stewart at the Zulu Associated and Pleasure Club, question he had was, is any of the construction that's happening with some of the pumps in other neighborhoods affecting the ability to pump out in other parts of the city? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to bring in some experts to try to get those answers, because our plan didn't work this weekend. And you know, and nobody just wants to hear everything's okay, everything's fine, the pumps work just the way we want them to. We want to know what worked. We want to know what did not work. Citizens in New Orleans, you know, have a very good bull blank meter. And after Hurricane Katrina, we're very sensitive. I think everybody's got a little touch of PTSD. And so people are very keen to the answers they get when something goes wrong, especially with regards to a bad weather event response. And right now, the answers we're getting, I can tell you from myself and from my colleagues, it's just not good enough.
And speaking of your colleagues, you know, a lot of people wondering, where does the mayor stand on this issue? Have you heard from him or had any communication with him?
I've talked to his administration. I have not talked to him. Had some communication with some other parish leaders across our region, but I have not talked to the mayor.
Okay, still waiting to hear some kind of response from the mayor. And I know you were mentioning too some residents and businesses dealing with a lot of the flooding, and they're hearing these answers and wondering, how can this be true? How can this be the new normal? What's your recommendation for? I know we talked to some renters today who are being asked to leave their apartment because it's flooded, not knowing where to go.
Well, you know, I know the Red Cross is mobilizing to help people in the community. I had a talk with the administration earlier, members of the administration, with regards to an emergency declaration, and there are 2 categories on the state level and the federal level that have to be met in order for that to be the case, and those categories had not been met based upon the amount of damage, percentage of damage from this bad weather event. The other thing is we also have to reach out and communicate with the community when bad weather events like this are going down, and say, look, stay in your home, don't leave. Put your car on high ground. That didn't happen here. And we have to make sure that there's measures in place that comes from the administration during a bad weather event, so you don't have people who are stuck on a highway for hours at a time, having to leave their cars where they are. And the other thing is, I've heard from some neighbors that tickets were issued today, that cars were towed, and that is absolutely unacceptable. And I say to anyone that's happened to to contact my office and let me deal with that for you, because that should not have happened, and I would take it up with the mayor when I talk to him.
And now also, you mentioned, people leaving their cars because they don't want to go through these floodwaters. I was driving in through the CBD today, and I saw a few cars that were underneath the highways that were just left there. So like you said, the city is towing them. What should residents be doing? Obviously contacting your office. And
I mean, certainly if someone got a ticket or got towed because they tried to put their car on safe ground, that should not have happened. So I want them to contact me so they do not get fined and don't have to pay a tow fee because of that. At the end of the day, when this happens, people are trying to do what they can to take care of themselves and their property, and the city and the administration has to be sensitive to that, especially when we don't have all the answers we need to have about why this amount of water causes this amount of damage when our pumping stations were supposed to be at capacity.
And in terms of getting those answers, what's the plan moving forward? How do you plan to pursue to get the answers for people?
Well, I've been working with my colleagues since this happened. I've been in the neighborhoods since this happened, talking to people, helping people when I can, and really to understand what was happening in each and every neighborhood. I've convened a special council meeting that will happen Tuesday at 1 o'clock. We plan on having members from the Sewage and Water Board, Public Works, the Army Corps of Engineers, who are handling some of the SELA projects that affect drainage. And I'm also reaching out to some experts to try to get some very concrete answers about what is going on in this city, because I am completely uncomfortable with calling what happened in this city over the weekend our new normal. That is unacceptable. And
I'm looking forward to, you do have a meeting coming up this week with the City Council to address some of these issues.
At 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock? Where's the details?
City Council chambers, 1 o'clock. All of my colleagues will be there, and I can tell you they're very actively and anxiously putting together other people they want to hear from the administration, other experts they want to hear from, and there will be a lot of questions asked, and we're going to get the answers that the citizens deserve and need to get.
And if, on a last note, anything that you want the public to know, for the people who were tuning in, just about what the city is doing and what their message is for the people who are out there struggling right now?
Well, I can say to the people of the city that myself, all my colleagues on the City Council were deeply offended by the suggestion that climate change has caused this problem and that everything is good on the city's end, and this is a new normal. This is not normal. This is not acceptable, and we're going to get answers to make sure that's not the case.
All right, Councilor Jason Williams, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.